Hello guys, welcome back. In the previous units, we talked about workflows, what those are, stitching multiple nodes together. Then we kind of talked a little bit about what a node is, what it looks like, how to parameterize it, how to authenticate it. And then we played with some of the nodes that could be used in HubSpot, Gmail, Sheets. The idea is basically a general unit of work here. But if you are going to be doing things together, you need some way to communicate. Even if you're like a chain of humans, you basically have papers, like paperwork going through them. Maybe you have Jira tickets kind of like being assigned to multiple humans. But the idea is if you have these independent factories of work, they need to communicate with each other. So once you get a data, you need to use it for other processes, right? If you have data isolated, you get your Gmail data, but you can't use it to run summaries, it's useless, right? Now you can see here is basically I got many messages, and then I basically can put it into OpenAI or a chatbot. If you know OpenAI, it kind of has the GPT chatbot. Basically, you can take these messages and kind of put it into an assistant. In this case, this assistant is not the right node, but you can think about this idea as maybe you can use it for something to do with a chatbot. Similar to how you do this in a factory line. Maybe you're building a car and then the car starts. Think about it as data, and then one worker basically does their part in contributing to it. Maybe someone put tires. I don't know why this car is on the opposite way. I used AI to generate it, so you can see it sometimes doesn't understand spatial reasoning. So there you go. But the idea, it kind of goes. In this case, it's instead of physical stuff, it passes information. It's very hard to kind of think about information as changing because it's very, very abstract. But it changes compared to something like a car, just tires being added and things like that. But you can think about this data. It's these numbers that are being changed continuously, with text, numbers, and things like that. And this kind of data is, there's two types you can think about it. Structured data and unstructured data. Why does structured data exist? Why does unstructured data exist? Basically, there is this kind of combination with workflows, especially with the use of AI, is that they can manage unstructured data now. They can read PDFs. They can look at images. They can look at very unstructured text and kind of make sense out of it. But structured data was definitely made for computational uses, tables. With particular numbers in them, where you can just basically take one column and add it. But with unstructured data, you cannot add multiple paragraphs together to get insights. It's very unstructured, right? So it's kind of is focused upon human needs. So with AI, these workflows are getting bombarded with unstructured data, such as email is unstructured, right? Compared to maybe an Excel table. And as the data is basically kind of traveling through these nodes, it gets transformed into structured to unstructured, unstructured to structured. Maybe you want to basically grab your emails and take out all the keywords related to, AI, and put them in some sort of a solid list or something. That's basically going from unstructured to structured. Or maybe you want to convert it into a JSON format to kind of pass it to. We'll talk about what a JSON is. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we'll talk about the structured data as well. But think about it as some sort of a container, which is has these components, and then you can each type of data goes in particular. And unstructured could be this big like container of water, which is just unstructured, just flows everywhere. Cool. So let's see how the data transforms across nodes. We're not gonna look at it right now with N8N, but this is a rough workflow, and then you can see that how we can simulate the workflow. So you can see that it basically reads it. It joins that text into a list and asks the AI to summarize it. And you can see that your 10 summaries go to your email address. Let's kind of simulate the flow again. It reads the emails, joins the list, asks AI to output, and sends it to the Gmail output. Here is an interesting thing, you have to join lists to kind of do, so one unit of work is joining lists. You got 10 lists. Why do you have to join them? The reason is because if you were to like create a workflow of like 10 emails, and then you can't directly put them in an LLM because you have to select the right component, which is like either the subject or the particular body of the email to basically summarize. So this is just a limitation of a workflow and how it's basically made. So get the email bodies, read the email list and join them, ask an AI to summarize them, and then send it out through Gmail. Okay? And basically, this whole workflow is called an execution. Then again, these are names. I want you to build mental models of what this is. But one workflow is called one execution, and you can run these execution multiple times. So now what we want to do is basically create two-step workflows. It's up to you what you want to create, but if we go here, we want two nodes. So this will basically be very important to kind of understand how the data is converted. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating one node. I'm going to say Gmail again. And I'm going to get actions, and I'm going to say, where did get go? Get many messages. All right, I'm going to get 10. There we go. If you execute step, it's going to work, but I'm just going to leave it here. Did I authenticate properly? Let's give it a look. Nope. To authenticate with this. Is there a way I can? Okay. I'll try to delete the number 2 just for. Yep. Delete. Okay. There we go. And the trigger is going to be there. So you don't have to run it through the trigger, but you can run it separately as well. But that's a manual trigger that we are using here. And what could be the other node? So one of the ones we saw is, so basically the other like joining item list is this node called aggregate, where you can basically combine the fields. So here you can see that there is no input, right? So I want to basically connect it now. So I'm just going to delete this node here, and I want it to connect it here. And as I connect and I go here, you can see that it's getting this particular input. And I can execute this to just basically see what we're getting. And here I can basically see which fields I want to aggregate. So in this case, I will just basically get the subject. Is there a subject here? Let's kind of look. Yep. So I can just basically drag it here as well. Okay. Then you can see that the subjects will be aggregated. So don't need to run this again. This will be stored in state. And then when you execute the step, and you can see that it's a list of subjects. So basically what we were able to do now is create like a workflow that has 2 nodes. It's a very simple workflow. You're just getting the messages and then you're aggregating them. And then next you can basically create like some sort of a summary with them. So if you kind of want to create a summary, you can create a summary with the that workflow. All right, so now let's look at multi-step workflows, right? So instead of 2 steps, we can add more. And the idea is like you can add like 100 steps. And so I'm going to create a new one. And this time I'm going to add some AI in there, right? And then I'm going to go into OpenAI. And then I'm going to say message an assistant. This is the node we're creating. And then in this case, we're going to be, what's it called? OpenAI account. And then in this case, we're going to use the text resource here, which we're going to be calling it in. As you can see that there's audio, file, and different other things. We're not going to worry about much of those. We're just going to focus on message a model. So this is like when you're basically messaging a model such as ChatGPT. So if you go to chat.com, you can see that you can message ChatGPT here. This is kind of the same thing, but in this case, you're automating what you're putting in. So here you can see I have some email subjects. I'm going to use Whisperflow. I want you to summarize them and give a ranking in terms of how important they can be. I don't know. And if you know how to prompt, you can delimitate. And then here, how do I get access to this over here, right? So what I want to do is just basically drag this right here in the subject. Oh, dragging issues. Okay, just gonna put it here, and you can see that there's subject here. And then the whole prompt is like this. So the whole prompt will have your emails. And then when I execute the step, problem running workflow, the workflow. Okay, I know because I've not chose a model. And there we go. We can add 4.1, which is your model. And you can choose whatever you want. You can use Claude, you can use Gemini, whichever one you are comfortable with. Yeah. And another thing is like this could be an expression and also something fixed, which won't work in this case because you need an expression which represents what that JSON data is. So I believe I'm going to execute the previous nodes. I think it just ran away. There we go. We got the subjects. And then this is executing this node as well. So here you can see, here's a summary. And it basically gave me some sort of an answer. I have no idea what this is, but it said a bunch of stuff. That's what they do. They generate a lot of stuff. So I'm going to kind of leave this idea here with you. Is like, there's a question mark here, right? What are you going to do? What is like the most common thing you can do? Okay. So I'll give some hints. Maybe you want to alert someone based on this summary. Like maybe it's sending a Slack message with all your summary of all your emails. Or maybe it's another email that you can send yourself. If you kind of look at these workflows, there's definitely an alert being sent out. Okay, let's first go here. So this is basically the workflow that we were creating. Getting many messages, aggregating them, and messaging a model, and then basically sending it out to Gmail. This could be Slack or whatever, right? And you can see this. This is kind of similar in most of these workflows. So this is a Lindy workflow. We also have an academy with Lindy if you want to try. Absolument fantastique. Flow is amazing. Ethan was amazing there. So you can try it out with Lindy. And then you also have the one with Gumloop we tried. As you can see, it's kind of similar. Gmail Reader, join list items, Ask AI, and Gmail Sender. We can talk a little bit about how long it took me to create these workflows. I think Lindy was the most simplest one. Gumloop took a little bit of time. N8N it takes a little bit longer just because you have to understand, just play with it a little bit in terms of how to get these values from the previous to this one. But with Lindy and Gumloop, they help you with these things called gummies, and Lindy has this Lindy assistant that you can use. So this has been a very, very long chapter, but it basically talked about like the flow of data and allowed us to create these multi-step workflows. So as homework or as an exercise, I want you to add the last node, which is sending an email out or sending a Slack message out. So in terms of that, I'm also out with this chapter, and I'll see you in the next one where we'll talk about triggers. Okay? I'll see you then.